So what brings you to Northern Ontario? Or Sudbury?
Well, I'm here for a very specific reason, to raise the alarm, frankly, about the Liberals government's intention of reviewing and potentially cancelling the mineral exploration tax credit and the flow-through shares for mineral exploration. And this is a huge concern. As you probably know, over the 10 years we were in government, that was something that we renewed in consecutive budgets because it's very important for the junior mining companies, which make up about 60% of a lot of the mining activity. Now, this sector in particular, just like the oil and gas sector in the West, is hurting. Commodity prices aren't great. That affects not just jobs in the direct mineral and mining sector, it also affects service sector jobs, it affects high-tech jobs, it affects everyone who works in this industry area. It was brought to my attention, in fact, by the Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada, that this was something they were told by Finance Canada and by the government that this is on the table to look at potentially cancelling. And we are very concerned about it. So I came to the region specifically to speak to business people, whether they're directly or indirectly affiliated to mining and mineral exploration, to say, look, we're here to work with you to make sure that we get that message back to the government in Ottawa that this is something that is imperative to this region and imperative to this industry. I mean, this is a $54 billion industry just in 2014 alone. And in 2014, 90% of the investments that were invested in junior mining actually were as a result of flow-through shares, and then the enhancement of the mineral exploration tax credit on top of that. So this works. It's very important for investments. Right now, we're seeing less investment in this area because of the low commodity prices. The last thing we need is, on top of that, to lose this investment vehicle that has been really important to this industry. So I'm here to say we're going to stand up for you. We're going to make the case in Parliament, and we're going to continue to make the case as strongly as we can that this is something the government should leave in place. It's important for job creation, and it's important for the prosperity of this region.
I know that's something that the junior miners really rely on to raise money.
They do.
What is the Liberal rationale for ending it?
Well, I think it's just I know it's another avenue for revenue for the government. I know that to be a fact because that was the rationale they gave to the association, the PDAC, to the association directly. But also we had the same situation before the federal budget, where the finance minister and the Liberal government decided they were going to tax stock options on tech startups. They thought this meant they were taxing a bunch of rich, CEOs of Shopify. In fact, it was the opposite. They were actually impacting the small startup companies in the tech sector from being able to use stock options as a way to attract young, smart people and retain young, smart people in places like Waterloo. So we raised the alarm. We went to Waterloo. We worked with the tech industry. We raised this issue in the House of Commons repeatedly. And anyway, they dropped the idea. They realized from the work that industry did, work that we did, that this was not a good idea for the tech sector, really bad idea for young, smart people in Canada. So we're here to do the same thing, hopefully achieve the same result on behalf of the mining and mineral industry. We need to keep this mineral exploration tax credit in place. We have to have access to flow-through shares also. It's a really, as you said, a really important investment vehicle for the junior companies. And at the end of the day, it's the junior companies that take the risk. They take it's high risk, sometimes low reward, can be high reward, but they're the ones taking the risk. And that's why this investment, the share vehicle, is available to them. And it's really benefited the whole country, but this region in particular.
What kind of reaction did you get from the people in the industry here?
Obviously concerned. Some of them knew about it. Some of them did not. In fact, many did not. And so what I said to them is, look, I'm committed to working to get the message back to Ottawa, and we'll raise this issue in the House of Commons as soon as the House reconvenes. We asked the question a few times before the House rose. We'll commit to speaking to the Natural Resource Minister, to the Finance Minister, and really press the case, and that we're here for them, and we understand how important this is for job creation and for the economy of the region, and we'll continue to push it. But my message to them was, also, you need to push it. We need businesses to write to their local MP. We need businesses to write to the finance minister, to Prime Minister Trudeau, to explain to him that this isn't about taxing the rich. I don't know where they get this idea about. This is about a lot of people that are taking high risk to do the exploration necessary to find the next Sudbury. I mean, that's where this all starts. And so these junior companies are really important to the ecosystem of mineral and mining industry. So we need to get that message back to the government, and we're going to be here to press the issue.
Now, just go a bit broader for a second.
Sure.
I interviewed Patrick Brown actually last
Oh.
month. He was here, yeah.
Yeah.
And I asked him, not a lot of Conservatives get elected in this sort of area. Is there a message, or is there a way for the party to make inroads in this part of the country?
Absolutely. Well, I find it interesting because here we have a government who elected MPs in this region and are looking at taking away an investment vehicle, which is literally the cornerstone of how money is created in this region. So there's a big disconnect between the Liberal Party, the Liberal government, and natural resource development. I mean, whether it's the oil and gas sector or it's mineral exploration in Ontario, you have a government who has right from the get-go said that we want to move away from fossil fuels, but they have no actual plan to do that. But they're putting in place a number of barriers and delays in whether it's looking at completely revamping the regulatory framework, which from what I can see is going to take at least 2 years, not to revamp it, just to study how it should be revamped, and then another 2 years maybe to get new legislation in place on how you would approve a new mine. Well, imagine what the message that sends to the people that might want to invest. And then the flip side of that is those who actually might want to put some money on the table, looking that the Liberal government is now looking at taking away those tax incentives and those flow-through share opportunities for the junior companies who are looking to generate wealth in the region. So there's a real, I guess for us as Conservatives, we're saying, look, we're here to stand up for the job creators and the people who have jobs in this region. Natural resource projects can be developed in a sustainable way. I was at the mine this morning at Glencore, and I mean, the technology there is unbelievable. I mean, it's second to none in the world, and they're doing it in a sustainable way, in a safe way, creating hundreds, if not thousands of jobs in the region, and they would be impacted by these kinds of policies. And that's at the federal level. I'll leave it to Patrick Brown to speak to what's happening at the provincial level, but the number one issue I heard here was uncertainty, and the other was electricity prices. So if you take those two things, you compound the two orders of government that are looking at bringing in even higher electricity prices in terms of the input costs at the provincial level, and then at the federal level, we're looking at tax increases, we're looking at taking away an opportunity for juniors to create the wealth they need for job creation and to explore to find the next Sudbury. This is not a government, at least at the federal level, and Patrick would say at the provincial level, that is friendly to resource development, to natural resource development. So we are friendly to natural resource development. We always have been. I think we should be very proud of the resources that we have in this country. I think that our industries have managed to exploit them in a sustainable way, and we should be proud of that record. And we should be doing everything we can to support them unapologetically. And that's something that we are, as a party, are proud of. And so my message to people that live in this region is that we've got your back, and we're going to push the government to make sure that they do not cancel the mineral exploration tax credit or the flow-through shares that we know is very important to this region.
How are you feeling about the long-term future of your party?
Very positive.
Do you think you can maybe move to the center a bit more without sort of fracturing the way it happened after Mulroney with the reform movement? And can you stay united, stay conservative, and still
Well, my caucus says yes. So we have 90. I mean, it's a very different time. If you look back to different times in, in the rise and fall of governments, it's normally when a government's been in power for 10 years, they're decimated in that election. We have 99 members of parliament. We had the biggest and most successful convention we've had in the history of our party. We had the best fundraising quarter we've had in the history of our party. So those are real, when you look at political organizations, those are strengths, pillars of strengths when people are, looking at whether or not we have strength in our party. So I feel very optimistic. We're also polling well. Polls, frankly, aren't that important, but the fundamentals of a strong organization are there. And we are still the broadest membership of any national party in the country. And we're very proud of that. So the work that we need to do going forward is to choose a new leader to lead us into the 2019 election. And that we have started to undertake with our leadership race. We've got 4 declared candidates, 3 declared candidates, 1 coming soon. Exciting times, good, competent people stepping forward. And then the next step, I think, is to, and I've started this already as interim leader, is to go to places like I am today in Sudbury and make the case that we need to earn the confidence of people in these regions. We know that they haven't always voted Conservative, but we want them to know that we are the party that's standing up for regular, ordinary people. We're the voice of taxpayers, we're the voice of small business owners, we're the voice of families. And without a doubt, we are the only voice in the House of Commons for people that are working in the natural resource sector. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here, because we see it in Saskatchewan, we're seeing it in British Columbia with LNG, we're seeing it in Alberta with the oil and gas sector, and we're now seeing it here in Northern Ontario with the mineral and mining sector, that we have a Liberal government that is not friendly to natural resource development. That's a big concern.
There was talk of changing the party rules to allow you to run. Is that something that you would ever consider? Have you totally ruled that out?
Yes.
No,
I ruled it out when I made the decision to run for the interim leadership, and I was elected by my caucus to be the interim leader, and I'm thrilled. It's also almost a 2-year interim leadership, which is quite a stint. I knew it would give me the opportunity to make a great contribution to the party, a great contribution to our organization, and get our caucus working smoothly. And my commitment was always to get everything running full steam ahead, and then help the next leader move into that phase of really getting out there and getting elected, because it'll be 2 years and maybe even less before the next election at that point. So yes, I love my job, but I'm happy that I get to hand the baton off to the next person when the time comes.
Okay, that's great. Is there anything else any topic you wanted to broach?
I've just mentioned that tomorrow we're going to be visiting Stack Brewery. Oh, cool. And one of the really interesting things that one of our MPs is working on is a campaign called Free the Beer. It's sort of taken on a life of its own, but really the geek part of this is the constitutional barriers. I don't know if you saw the ruling in New Brunswick by the upper court that said that Canadians have a right to sell their products across provincial boundaries. So we've really been pushing the government to actually take that to the Supreme Court to finally get a ruling on whether or not that is the case, because we believe it is, that the reading of the Constitution is such that Canadians should be able to have a free flow of goods across provincial boundaries. And as you well know, we trade more with other countries than we do with one another in this country. And we as Conservatives are free traders, but we'd like to see free trade in Canada as much as we'd like to see free trade with the US and Mexico. So the Free the Beer campaign really is symbolic about our desire to see free trade in Canada. And as you know, in across some provinces, you can't take a case of beer. You can't buy a case of beer in Quebec and take it over to Ontario without, I guess, the threat of potentially getting a ticket or thrown in jail. So we're going to go to Stack Beer tomorrow to talk about Free the Beer, because this is a great opportunity for breweries to be able to sell their products across Canada.
Yeah, that's a great industry.
And then we're at a women's center tomorrow. I have my whole life worked on issues ending violence against women, and so we're going to be stopping at a women's center to just meet with them, talk with them, and show our support to them.